had a fun thing, which is the 11th hour rewrite. Inevitably, this will happen with every single book, I'm guessing, because something will happen, some reader will point something out to me, and it will bug me until I have to, rewrite it. So, like, with The Chaos Child, we were all set to publish. I think we even had layout done. And I had given it to a reader to test read, and this was someone who had no knowledge of fairy lore at all. And so they came back and went, hey, this was a great book, but I had no idea what the fairies were all about. And I went, oh crap. So I kind of had to put some clunky exposition in just to cover those holes. So this time around, this was actually not a reader, or not necessarily a reader, it was more my brother was reading it, and he got to about page 70, and he said, you know what, this is just not for me. And I went, how is this not for you? Like, it's great. Like, come on, it's supposed to be a little awkward and whatever. The first part of To Ford Rayburn is their relationship. And so I was nervous about this, actually, because I am selling this as a thriller, and it is. It is mostly a thriller. Like, this is literally only the first quarter of the book that deals with their relationship. The rest of it is espionage and crazy stuff, and it's fun. But you need that build-up. And so my editor was kind of reassuring me with the, like, it's fine, slow builds are fine, you see this all the time, right? It's the nature of the story, it's a longer story, it's more epic, you can take your time to build up to the adventure-y part. But then I was, like, rereading it with editing, and I just went, you know what, no, this is starting to bug me. I don't know, something about it was just, like, not quite, like, working, as far as I could tell. Like, something was off, where I was like, you know what can I do with this, essentially? Because I can't throw it out. The truth is, you need this part of the story. It is essential to understanding the rest of the story. And, I mean, I had to do so many rewrites of it already, because I would have people coming back at me going, I don't understand why she's in love with him. I don't understand why he's in love with her. So I was adding and subtracting and doing all this crap to it, trying to figure out how to, like, appease all that. And at the end of the day, we realized it was because I was doing that. It was because I was trying to appease so many people to make it absolutely believable that these two characters would get married after a week, when I didn't really have to do that. I really had to do what I ended up editing this last time, which is I had to show the impulsivity of the moment and really stress it. And also stress why everything that was going to happen would be so upsetting to Ray, my main character. Because as it was written, he was kind of whiny, admittedly, and he was kind of pulling that Batman, dead parents thing. And so I was discussing with my editor, and he kind of suggested, like, well, Ray kind of has this supernatural ability. I mean, it was supposed to be realistic, but at the end of the day, it comes out more supernatural, which is, like, he has premonitions, essentially. And his perception checks are nat 20s every single time. And I was like, yeah, but that's just, whatever. He's, like, the dude who actually notices things. But he's like, well, why don't you do it that way? Like, why can't it be, or you should put in this tension and this foreboding in here where he knows if he gets with Marnie that it's all gonna go wrong. Because that's essentially the story. And I was like, I guess sort of, but I thought about it some more and I went, you know what? Yeah, you're right. But I need to take it a step further. He had a premonition before his parents died. And he feels it's his fault for not warning them. And when I started on that track and I started rewriting bits and pieces, I didn't rewrite the whole thing. I was tempted to. There was a part of me that was like, do I just need to throw out the whole thing? And it was like, no, I don't, and I can't. I really can't. But I needed to bring some tension back to this scene. And so we started to write that in. I started to put in, foreboding and uncertainty and him warring with the fact that he loves her, but he is so scared of what will happen if he's with her. And then he's proven right. And so, that sort of thing is obnoxious to do when you're writing. It sucks. It sucks to get to this point where you're gearing up to go get your prototypes of this and go, oh, I need to write some more. It's not finished. And it wasn't. I added 5 more pages and took out 2. But it's so necessary. And then, you know what the absolute worst part of it, though, is knowing that almost no one else does this. I've read books after book after book that I can see where someone had just gone to the writer and said, hey, you need to, tweak this thing or do something about this or just throw out this scene and rewrite it. The whole book would have been vastly improved. And they didn't. Because no one cared. Because publishing has kind of turned into this corporate industry where you just throw out whatever and see what sticks. And then even readers don't really care. And I don't even think readers notice. They either read or they don't. But for me, it was look, I'm not going to get my brother to read this. I think there were other reasons he didn't like it. But there was something slightly off that he couldn't get behind, and I couldn't even get behind, so I'm going to change it for my own sake. And it's painful. And it's painful because I see all these books that are published that don't even do half the work that I just did. I mean, because it's hard. It's actually some of the hardest work you'll do where you're this close to finishing and you just go, and because if you could so easily mess it up if you don't do it right because you're so close to finishing. So you can't just throw it in. It needs to be better. It needs to be airtight. It needs to be good. And I did it anyway. I did it with The Chaos Child, and I did it with this, and I'm sure I'll do it with the second book, and I'm sure I'll do it with whatever comes next. And I hate it, and I can almost see the whole, getting published and no one caring, and even me not caring. I think there's quite a few authors we can say that about, actually. You can see it. You can see how tight their first book was and then how it devolves. But I don't think I could live with myself if I did that. And I think I want to keep holding myself accountable to it, too. Yeah, I hate that I'm the only one who does this, as far as I can tell. But if I want any traction with this, I have to do it. That's just the reality. Because, I'm going to say it, part of the reason your self-published book is going nowhere is, first of all, get yourself an editor, a real one, okay? Not your writer friend who can do grammar. No, someone who really knows their shit. Second of all, it's when you're this close, but you have that sinking feeling of something's not quite right, listen to it and do it. There's actually one of these things I learned in art class, where we were like drawing with charcoal, and like I hate drawing with charcoal. I usually use pencil, but the teacher said no, you need to learn to do this, and the reason you need to learn to do this is because when you mess up, you need to throw it out, because you can't undo what you did. And it's actually part of my problem with like a lot of art on the computer, computer generated art, not computer, like not AI, but people who draw exclusively on their tablets, is that it's so easy to erase. And so you don't learn this very well, which is you can't just take that little piece that you liked and put it in another picture, because that wasn't the picture you were drawing. If you mess up, you throw it out and start again. Now you can learn how to like mess up and use the mess up, that's something else, but when you're just starting out, and it's to not be afraid to say, I need to start again, or I need to redo something. And so I've done that with Ford Rayburn, actually. I basically, with this rewrite, this last rewrite, I got rid of the last bits of this story that were from the original NaNoWriMo draft. Like, there was just little bits of things I mostly threw it out. I mostly threw the whole thing out. But there were bits and pieces that I kept, just little pieces I kept. And this rewrite got rid of all that. And that's what I should have done. I should have said nothing from the Nano draft exists. We start over. Because, I still would have had an 11th hour problem. But you cannot, when you are a writer, you can't be afraid to throw out a whole draft.